Imagine you're standing in front of the massive skyscraper, and on the gleaming top floor, you got this futuristic AI lab,
Mm,
right? With autonomous bots just zipping around, optimizing absolutely everything in sight.
right, a very sci-fi picture.
Yeah, exactly. But then you go down into the basement, and the building's entire power grid is running on this dusty, mechanical 1960s switchboard. And somehow that ancient switchboard is routing all the money in the world.
It is quite the contrast. I mean, we really have the absolute bleeding edge of technology resting directly on top of the ancient.
And understanding how those two worlds connect is exactly what we're doing today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We are opening up the July 17th, 2026 edition of Random Technical News You Can Possibly Use.
Which is, of course, from the desk of Andrew Kagan.
Right. And it's a weekly newsletter that is just a massive fire hose of an update. We're talking 8 major focus areas of enterprise tech today. Azure, Microsoft 365, DevOps, data, security, all of it.
It's a lot to get through, yeah.
It is. But our mission today is to synthesize all this. So, whether you are a developer, an IT admin, or just someone trying to figure out where the industry is actually heading, we want to give you those aha moments.
Exactly, to help you stay ahead of the curve, basically, without drowning in the technical minutia. Because right now, enterprise tech is, well, it's maturing in the age of AI at just a breakneck pace.
It really is.
It's not just about flashy chatbots anymore, It's about how these tools are fundamentally rewiring the entire infrastructure of business. You really need to see how all these disparate pieces, the cloud architecture, the security protocols, the data pipelines, how they all fit together.
Because they really do connect. I mean, today we're covering everything from OpenAI's GPT-5.6 quietly dropping into Microsoft 365 to why AI is forcing Microsoft to literally rewrite its Windows patch guidance.
Which is a huge deal.
Right, and we'll even get into why a 65-year-old programming language is still quietly processing $3 trillion a day. But let's jump right into the top floor of that skyscraper first, this massive evolution in AI agents.
Yeah, this is really the defining shift of the moment. We are moving away from Copilot being a passive chatbot.
Like the old prompt and response thing.
Exactly. The old model where you ask it a question and it gives you a text summary back. We are moving toward active, intent-driven agents now. And the catalyst here, the really big news, is that GPT 5.6 is available today inside Microsoft 365 Copilot.
Today. That's wow.
Yeah, it immediately upgrades what these tools are capable of doing.
And it's not just that the underlying brain is getting smarter, right? It's how deeply that brain is being embedded into the workspace itself. Like, look at the public preview of SharePoint Copilot apps.
Oh, yeah. That's a game changer.
It really is. It allows organizations to build highly specific line of business agents right into their intranets. So, I mean, you could have a corporate communications agent that doesn't just answer questions about the employee handbook.
Right, it actually takes action.
Exactly. It actually tailors onboarding tasks for a new hire. Or a management and governance agent that automatically provisions a new team site based on just a brief conversation.
And that philosophy, basically turning a conversation into a concrete outcome, it's extending everywhere. I mean, we are seeing it in Microsoft Planner with new custom templates for reusable plans, which completely speeds up repeatable workflow.
Right.
We're seeing new developer guidance for building native Microsoft Teams agents. And it's even hitting the CRM side with an entirely new agentic platform for Dynamics 365 sales and service.
Okay, and over in the Power Platform ecosystem, there's a big update to the Work IQ tooling.
Yeah.
The newsletter mentions they're utilizing a command line interface and something called the Model Context Protocol, or MCP.
Yes. Good
to
take it. Yeah.
empower developers to build these agents faster. But I have to pause here and push back for a second.
Sure.
Are these agents just glorified macros? Because if
Yeah.
you think about it, we've had macros recording our clicks and automating spreadsheets for decades. Is there a real intelligence shift happening here, or is this just a fancy rebrand of standard automation?
No, it's a great question, and distinguishing the two is actually crucial. Macros are fundamentally rigid. They execute a predetermined static sequence of steps.
Right, step A, step B, step C.
Exactly. And if the user interface changes even slightly, or if, say, an unexpected variable pops up in the data, a macro completely breaks. It just doesn't know what to do. But these new agents, powered by models like GPT 5.6, they use intent recognition.
Meaning they understand the actual goal.
Yes, they understand the why behind the task. They can navigate complex dynamic workflows natively to reach that goal, even if the path changes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like if an API fails, the agent can recognize the failure, pivot, and try a completely different tool to extract the necessary data. They really bridge the gap between simply retrieving information and actually making localized decisions to take action.
Okay, that makes sense. But it also sounds a little terrifying, if I'm being honest.
Well, yeah.
I mean, if these autonomous agents are now actively making decisions, chaining different tools together, and altering enterprise data across different platforms, giving them that much localized power creates a huge problem.
It does.
If a bad actor compromises one of these agents, or if the agent just hallucinates and goes rogue, they basically have the keys to the kingdom.
You've hit the nail on the head. You absolutely cannot let autonomous agents run wild in an enterprise environment. They need strict supervision and a governed environment to operate within.
Which perfectly explains this new concept in the newsletter called Windows 365 for Agents. Essentially, Microsoft is establishing cloud PCs as controlled, secured execution environments specifically designed for AI agents to run in.
Right. Think about it from a security architecture standpoint. If an agent is going to execute code, manipulate files, or trigger workflows, you absolutely want it doing so in an isolated, monitored sandbox.
Not just running loose on my physical laptop.
Exactly. Not directly on an employee's laptop where sensitive, unencrypted local files might live. But the governance has to go much deeper than just where the agents live. It's about how you monitor them. Which brings us to Agent 365.
Agent 365 seems to be quickly becoming the ultimate control plane for all this. The June updates show that Microsoft Purview Audit is now capturing audit logs for local developer agents.
Yeah.
And I found this fascinating.
Oh, it's huge.
They are tracking tools running right on a developer's machine, like GitHub, Copilot CLI, Claude Code, OpenAI Codex, and OpenClaw.
It's basically like having a digital security guard standing over the shoulder of every AI agent operating in your environment.
Right.
Because as agent usage becomes more distributed across local machines, you just can't afford to have visibility gaps. Security and compliance teams need a centralized way to know exactly what code is being generated and executed, even if it's happening locally.
And Microsoft Defender is stepping in here too, right? It's now evaluating the risk exposure of these local agents on both macOS and Windows. It's looking at their configuration and permissions to flag the riskiest ones. And if you are an IT admin listening to this, the fact that Agent 365 has expanded its Microsoft Graph API support is massive.
Truly massive.
It means you aren't manually hunting down rogue bots anymore. You can automate the entire lifecycle of an agent, from onboarding it securely to instantly blocking it if it starts acting suspiciously.
Yeah. So that handles the local, user-facing side of governance. But what about the back end? When an enterprise adopts AI, you often have dozens of different internal development teams hitting the exact same Azure OpenAI model.
And that turns into an operational nightmare. You just get this massive, completely unreadable cloud bill at the end of the month, and nobody knows which department burned through all the cash.
Exactly. But the new architectural guidance for Azure AI Foundry solves this. They are putting Azure API Management, or APM, right in front of the AI models as a gateway.
It's an elegant solution.
It really is.
Yeah.
By routing everything through APM, you turn a wild, shared endpoint into a tightly governed control point.
I love the analogy for this. It's basically like handing out a corporate credit card for AI.
That's exactly it.
Because, AI models charge by the token, which is roughly equivalent to a piece of a word, and those tokens translate directly to real dollars. APM lets the business see exactly which team is spending which tokens on which specific models.
Right. You get per model token visibility.
Yeah. Visibility, chargebacks, budget alerts. And the best part is you don't have to change a single line of the client application code to make it work.
It instantly solves the mystery bill.
Yeah.
But if we pull back and look at the bigger picture here, building and supporting these highly governed AI endpoints requires a lot of raw computing power and data. The engine room of your infrastructure has to evolve just as fast as the agents on the top floor.
Right. So the data engineers and developers need upgraded tools.
Yeah.
And we are seeing those tools become agent-ready. Take the Azure Architecture Diagram Builder. It used to be just a tool for drawing out how your cloud setup looks. But now it exposes tools like validate architecture, estimate costs, and generate bicep as actual tools an AI agent can chain together.
And we should probably clarify what Generate Bicep actually means here, because it's vital. Bicep is Microsoft's infrastructure as code language.
Gotcha.
So an AI agent isn't just drawing a pretty picture of a server architecture anymore. It is literally chaining tools together to validate if the architecture will work, tell you how much it will cost, and then write the actual deployment code to build it in reality.
It's an interactive planning and execution tool. That is wild.
It is.
And the physical infrastructure is beefing up to handle these massive workloads too. Azure Front Door is bringing programmable logic right to the network edge, closer to the user. And Azure Site Recovery now supports up to 500 megabytes per second of churn per virtual machine.
Which is a massive metric.
Right.
Yeah. Churn refers to input-output operations per second, or IOPS. It's how much data is being rapidly written and rewritten. So 500 megabytes of change every single second means that Azure Site Recovery is finally viable for disaster recovery on incredibly heavy, high IOPS transactional databases, which are often the backbone feeding data into these AI pipelines.
Wait, speaking of databases, I want to back up a second. Looking at the data layer notes here, there is a massive list of updates for Azure's SQL. And to be honest, with all this focus on futuristic AI, pouring so much energy into legacy SQL feels a little, I don't know, out of place. Why is Microsoft focusing so heavily on a traditional relational database right now?
Well, because data and AI are converging, and SQL is where the world's enterprise data actually lives.
That makes sense.
The AI is only as good as the data it can securely access. That's why we are seeing these major security and performance upgrades in SQL. For example, transparent data encryption, or PDE, in Azure SQL now supports AES keys. This aligns it with the NSA's CNSA 2.0 recommendations.
Right, which is essentially the military-grade encryption standard being updated to protect against future quantum computing attacks.
Exactly.
And they've added regex-powered dynamic data masking. So instead of manually writing rules to hide sensitive information, you use pattern-matching regex to automatically identify and mask things like social security numbers on the fly before the AI or a user even sees it.
It's incredibly efficient. And on the performance side, Azure SQL now supports Apache Arrow via the new ArrowFetch API.
Okay, I know Apache Arrow is a big deal in the data engineering world, but why does it matter for AI specifically?
Good question. So traditional databases store data in rows, but data analytics and AI models, they prefer to ingest data in columns.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Apache Arrow is an in-memory columnar format. By supporting it natively, SQL can basically hand over massive columns of data to analytics tools instantly without having to translate or reorganize the data first.
That would drastically speed up the pipeline.
It really was. And if you tie that back to agents, there's a new SQL MCP server in preview.
There's that model context protocol again.
Yes. Think of MCP as a universal plug, like a USB-C cable for AI models. This new server allows AI agents to securely plug directly into SQL databases to query data without developers having to build custom integration pipelines from scratch.
This convergence of data and AI is actually shifting how we analyze information entirely. There's an interesting debate highlighted in the newsletter from an article on KD Nuggets. It's about SQL versus pandas versus AI agents for solving analytics problems.
Right.
And it perfectly explains why Microsoft Research just introduced something called Flint. They describe it as a new visualization language explicitly designed for the AI era. But with tools like Python and Pandas being so dominant, why do we need a completely new visualization language like Flint just because of AI?
It comes down to complexity. The traditional Python libraries that data scientists use, like Pandas or Matplotlib, they were built for a human iteratively exploring a specific static data set.
Right.
But an AI agent generates highly complex, multidimensional insights on the fly. Traditional static plotting libraries struggle to communicate those dynamic insights interactively.
Gotcha. So Flint is built natively to allow the AI to construct visualizations that are as dynamic and interactive as the insights themselves.
Exactly.
Okay, I see how the pieces fit together now. But this brings us to a really uncomfortable reality. With AI writing infrastructure code, pulling columnar data at light speed, and generating dynamic interfaces, the attack surface for bad actors isn't just growing, it is actively mutating.
It is. The speed of AI is fundamentally changing the rules of cybersecurity. The old paradigms simply cannot keep up.
And there's a staggering detail in this roundup. Microsoft is actively rewriting its Windows patch deployment guidance.
Yeah, that blew my mind.
It's crazy. The traditional timelines, like giving IT departments 30 days to test and apply a security patch, those are just obsolete now. AI is accelerating the speed at which threat actors reverse engineer vulnerabilities and deploy attacks.
We are seeing these accelerated, highly sophisticated threats bypass traditional defenses entirely, especially in the cloud. Take the Shiny Hunters attack, mentioned in the updates. This is a classic example of OAuth abuse. It's categorized under the MIR-RD technique T16701.
Let's break that down because it is a terrifying attack vector. OAuth is basically the system that lets you use your Google or Microsoft login to access a third-party app without handing over your actual password.
Right. It relies on digital identity tokens. What the Shiny Hunters attackers did was they created a malicious fake application and gave it a super boring, legitimate-sounding name, like Salesforce Data Loader.
Sneaky.
Very. And then they tricked administrators into granting that app permissions.
So the attackers didn't need to crack any passwords or break through a firewall. They just walked right through the front door wearing a stolen digital ID badge and then silently exfiltrated massive amounts of data from customer Salesforce environments.
Exactly. It exploits the trust between cloud applications. Now, contrast that invisible cloud threat with what's happening in the physical world in operational technology, or OT.
Okay.
Microsoft Defender is now integrating with companies like Dragos, Forescout, and Armis to protect highly sensitive OT environments.
We're talking about the computer systems that run, power grids, water treatment plants, and factory floors. Defending OT is fundamentally different from defending IT.
It really is.
Because in IT, if a server gets infected, you isolate it, patch it, and reboot it. But you can't exactly deploy a patch and reboot a city's power grid in the middle of a Tuesday.
No, you definitely can't.
The protections have to monitor behavior and block threats without ever interrupting the physical process.
Which is precisely why foundational security research is so critical right now. You have to secure the absolute bedrock of these systems. Microsoft Research is working on formally verifying Rust cryptography in a project called SymCrypt.
Rust being the programming language known for memory safety.
Yes. They are working to mathematically prove that the very cryptographic foundations of our systems are secure from the code level up.
But security often bumps right into privacy, creating a lot of friction. And there's a very charged piece of news in this edition that we need to look at impartially.
Okay.
According to a finding by Windows Latest, which actually originated from a publicly documented FBI hacker complaint, Windows 11 contains a GDID, or Global Device ID Tracker, that supposedly has no off switch.
This is a perfect example of the tension in modern system architecture. From the perspective of privacy advocates, an undisableable hardware identifier is a huge concern. It clashes heavily with consumer expectations of anonymity and control over their own devices.
It feels invasive. So, is a tracker without an off switch an engineering oversight, or is it a deliberate security mechanism that just clashes with those privacy expectations?
Well, according to the security architectures involved, it is completely deliberate. Law enforcement agencies, like the FBI and enterprise incident response teams, rely on immutable hardware identifiers to successfully trace and block persistent threat actors. If a hacker could simply dive into the settings and turn the tracker off, it would defeat the entire purpose of the security mechanism.
It's the ultimate tightrope walk between actionable security and absolute privacy.
It is a really tough balance.
On a more day-to-day level, though, Microsoft is rolling out some genuinely helpful administrative tools to mitigate just regular human error, like cron tenant message recall in Exchange Online.
Oh, that is a very practical win.
Seriously, if you accidentally send a highly sensitive email with an attachment to the wrong partner or organization, you finally have a remediation tool that actually works across organizational boundaries to pull it back.
So needed.
But look, surviving this landscape, whether it's AI-accelerated threats, agentic workflows, or complex privacy tensions, it requires more than just new tools. It requires a massive human upskilling effort.
The human element has to adapt just as fast as the technology, and we are seeing the certification landscape shift to reflect that. The old silos are really breaking down.
Right. If you look at the new learning paths, the DP203 Azure Data Engineer exam is being retired. It's being replaced by the new DP700 for Fabric Data Engineers.
It makes sense.
It signals that traditional data ingestion and modern AI analytics aren't separate jobs anymore. They are merging into a single role.
We also see the new DP800 for SQL AI developers, which makes perfect sense given that new SQL MCP server we discussed earlier. The roles of database manager and AI developer are basically colliding.
Right.
And then there's the DP600, focusing heavily on building semantic models in Power BI. This ensures the AI actually understands the business context of the data it's analyzing.
Upskilling is really the only way we prepare for the macro trends reshaping the industry. Zooming out to the big picture from the newsletter, Microsoft Research announced Aurora 1.5. They're extending open foundation models beyond just text generation and applying them to high-resolution weather forecasting and complex Earth system predictions.
It's incredible.
AI is moving from the chat window to modeling the physical planet.
We also see industry analysis reiterating that quantum computing cannot scale in a vacuum. The physics are just too complex. It absolutely requires strong national and commercial ecosystems working together on supply chains and cooling technologies to become commercially viable.
But out of all the macro trends and futuristic updates we've covered today, my absolute favorite fact in this entire roundup, the one that really puts this whole industry into perspective, is about COBOL,
Oh, yeah.
a 65-year-old programming language. Today, right now, as we talk about GPT-5.6 and quantum computing, COBOL still quietly processes over $3 trillion in banking transactions every single day.
It is the ultimate paradox of enterprise technology.
Going back to our skyscraper analogy from the very beginning, the tech industry is basically a geological dig site.
Yeah.
You have the foundational bedrock of 1960s COBOL at the very bottom, reliably holding up the entire global financial economy.
Yeah.
And resting right on top of it, mutating every single week. You have the shiny new topsoil of autonomous AI agents.
And that perfectly summarizes our journey through these updates. I mean, we are moving from simply deploying AI to actively governing it with tools like Agent 365 and Azure API management.
Right.
We are upgrading the engine room with columnar data and edge computing. We are racing to secure these systems against rapidly accelerating threats in both the cloud and the physical world. And ultimately, we are upskilling ourselves to manage this incredibly complex, multi-layered environment.
Because staying informed is half the battle. If you're an IT admin, a developer, or a data engineer, we really hope this deep dive helped you connect the dots on how your specific role is evolving. We want you to see the big picture without feeling overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information.
But before we go, I want you to consider one final thought.
Okay.
If we are entering an era where AI agents can autonomously chain tools together to validate architecture and write deployment code, while we simultaneously rely on 65-year-old COBOL to run the global economy.
Will the future of technology actually be humans writing new code? Or will it simply be humans managing armies of AI agents whose sole job is to maintain the ancient basement switchboards that we no longer understand?
It is a fascinating and slightly unsettling question to ponder.
It really is. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the July 17, 2026 enterprise tech landscape. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and we'll catch you on the next one.